Guys, I'm back with another video for you today, and this is a video that you guys have been asking me to do, and so I decided to put together the video for this Saturday as a top 20 list. Well, I don't know if this would be called the top 20 list because these are my 20 fragrances that are not for me. So 20 fragrances that I am not a fan of, that I don't like, either for specific reasons like the note they use or whatever. I'm going to tell you all about them and also talk a little bit about subjectivity with fragrances, as I feel like people are so attached to the fragrances that they like, and when somebody says something negative about that fragrance, it almost feels like you're putting down somebody's family member because they're so attached to that fragrance. So if you want to find out about the 20 fragrances that are not for me, plus hear me speak about subjectivity with fragrances, then please stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian with Smelling Great Fragrance Reviews. That's right, today I'm back with another video, a top 20 list, but not your typical top 20 list. These are 20 fragrances that I'm not a fan of. These are 20 fragrances that just don't work for me, whether it's a note or a style or whatever, you name it. It just doesn't work with me as a smell, my body chemistry, all of that good stuff. So I'm going to tell you about these fragrances, but I'm not going to show you hold up bottles because I don't have them. But today, if this is your first time tuning into my channel and you love watching fragrance reviews, finding out about new fragrances, discovering new brands, and of course participating in giveaways, and still haven't subscribed, please click the subscribe button below and also click the bell so you'll be notified for future videos and giveaways. And that's right, I'm not wearing a hat today. Just got a haircut a few days ago. I decided to like really put my hair products in and really wait for spring, because spring is around the corner. I feel it in the air. It's coming already. But anyway, a little bit about subjectivity. I feel like this is a topic that should be discussed, because when people hear somebody say something negative about a specific fragrance and the person that's hearing it has a lot of love for that particular fragrance, I feel like people take it so seriously. I've done negative reviews. I don't do them too much, and if you guys have been following me for a while now, I've been doing videos since 2012. This is my second channel, and there was a reason why the other channel is not around. I used to speak really negatively about some fragrances because I didn't like them, but I don't do negative reviews much. I don't want to do a review that says, okay, I hate this fragrance sucks, this is bad, blah blah blah. I don't do those kind of videos anymore. I mean, sometimes I might say some things about a particular fragrance that's just not working for me, but I'm not the type that would really come out and really bash a fragrance. I just don't want to do that. But these 20 fragrances I'm going to tell you about are just fragrances that are not working for me. But as far as subjectivity goes, I mean, we're all humans. We like certain things and we hate certain things. And like for me, for example, there are some things I really like in life. I love superhero movies, and a lot of my friends hate them. So it's just a thing that we're in. I like for food, I like my eggs in the morning not too runny. I just don't like the yolk to be runny because it kind of grosses me out. So I like them just between runny and very hard, so that, you know, there's some texture to it and it just doesn't ooze everywhere. I mean, there's just different things I like. I like my pizza to be with the pepperoni and cheese. I don't like olives on it. Even though I love olives, I hate olives on my pizza, and I cannot stand pineapple on pizza. It's disgusting. Another thing is I don't like sweet coffee much. I prefer my coffee to be just a coffee and the sweetness from the milk. I don't want to add any additional sweetness because then it just becomes overly sweet. I mean, just sometimes there's some desserts that have liqueurs in them. Even though I love boozy fragrances, I just don't like to eat boozy desserts because I just feel like it takes away from the actual sweetness of the fragrance. So we're all human. We like things, we don't like things. It's just a matter of taste, and it's the same thing with fragrances. I mean, there's some things I like and there's some things I do not like. I don't like overly aquatic fragrances. I've been getting more and more into aquatic fragrances, but there's some notes that they use, or the combination of notes just really becomes very sharp on my nose, overwhelming, and it's really like, I don't want to say vomit inducing, but there are some fragrances that really do get you to that point of, because you're smelling something and it just really is not pleasant. Like, it's not pleasant. There are some fragrances, and you've probably heard me speak about them, from a house that I don't speak about on the channel because they are pretty evil, and there was a fragrance, very well known, aquatic gourmand fragrance, which was one of the worst things I had ever put my nose on. It was just one that would like get me close to vomiting because it smelled vile, like literally vile. So when they use these like very synthetic smelling C notes and they amp it up so much, and it's just the way my my sense of smell is and what I smell, because I don't generally hate a lot of smells. I'm always looking for a new smell. I love smelling things, and I love finding the next great fragrance, because for me the hobby is all about smell, and I like smelling things and I love discovering great smells. But when there are some fragrances that just do not like to smell up. A lot of the aquatics and overly animalic fragrances, those are some of my least favorites. Those are like, I love animalic fragrances, and next to some of my friends, I do enjoy them more. But when it's like overdose of animalics, it's just like, whoa, that is way too much for me. I cannot tolerate it. So give it to me in little doses and I can handle it. But if you're going to give me nothing but animalics, it's pretty vile and I don't want to go there. So let's go ahead and get started. As I said, I'm not going to have bottles here for you. I'm just going to tell you about fragrances, and I might flash a photo if I feel it's safe, because there are some brands that are known for, going after any negative talk. So if I feel comfortable about it, I will flash a photo. And I just also want to mention, some of these brands are some of my favorite brands. I speak a lot about these brands, a lot about them, but these particular fragrances are just not for me. So let's get started. The first one is one of the latest ones I sampled, and I have a studio here in San Francisco that's near one of the perfume shops, the designer perfume shops, and they have a by KILIAN, the round ball collection. There's a fragrance there called Boys, and I was speaking to an associate, and she said, oh, this one is a very masculine one, you should check it out. It's really popular with the men. I said, okay, let me smell it. According to the notes, it's got Coca-Cola, she said, cedar, lime, and cinnamon. So I wore it. I was like, okay, Coca-Cola sounds great. I used to love drinking Coca-Cola. I don't anymore. I put it on. It smelled great for like a few seconds, and then this aquatic aura took over, and it started really like getting to a point of that one fragrance that from that brand I used to speak about. It's like a gourmand, aquatic, whatever the heck it is. Really awful smell. I just cannot tolerate this fragrance. It becomes so seaweed smelling, when you just go to the sea, sometimes it smells great and sometimes it's bad. There are those times when there's something in the sea that elevates and becomes really vile smelling, and this smelled like that on me. So whatever it is, the interaction with my chemistry, it just does not work. So by KILIAN Boys, definitely not a fragrance for me. I don't know if you guys are fans of this one, do let me know. But this list is mostly going to be about the aquatic fragrances, unfortunately. There are some animalics. Next, these two fragrances were sent to me early on when I started reviewing for Safflarbon, like really early on back in 2015. They were a duo that were launched together from the house of PENHALIGON'S. And I'm a fan of PENHALIGON'S, a huge fan. And I'm also a fan of by KILIAN, by the way. You've seen the videos, but PENHALIGON'S fragrances launched two fragrances called Blasted Bloom and Blasted Heath. Wow, I put them on and I was like, no way I'm reviewing these two fragrances. There's no way. They smell so seaweedy, like the seaweed and seawater notes are so amped up. All I can smell is nothing but that, and I can't say anything positive about the smell of these fragrances. It just didn't do it for me, so I never reviewed them. I've said some negative things to people about the fragrances. In fact, I even now know the folks behind PENHALIGON'S in the UK, and I've told them it's not one of my, they're not two of my favorite fragrances, and they were aware that I never, reviewed them and I never speak about them. First, because I don't like really heavy aquatic fragrances. Second, because they're overdose of seaweed and seawater. Both of the fragrances are different. One is a little better than the other, but they're both on the major aquatic side, and they just did not do it for me. So if you guys know Blasted Bloom and Blasted Heath, are you fans of it? Do let me know. So these next two fragrances are very similar to me and very mass and boring. Both created by the same perfumer, but they're from completely different brands. One's an American brand, I think, Robert Graham, Courage. And the other one is Armani, of course, it's an Italian brand. So Armani's Acqua di Gio Absolu. I bought a bottle and I reviewed it, actually. I did not like this fragrance at all. I really do enjoy Profumo from Acqua di Gio, from Armani's Acqua di Gio line, but ABSOLU was a disaster. It was like an aquatic mess. Whatever they've done to it, it just amped up the amber wood notes or whatever, and it just didn't work for me. And the thing is, Robert Graham had launched Courage a few years prior. In fact, I received Courage and Valor and Fortitude from the house, and I did a review for that, for those 3 fragrances on SPICEBOMB, but Courage just did not work for me, absolutely not. It smells very close to Acqua di Gio ABSOLU, and it's launched by the same perfumer, I mean created by the same perfumer, and it was just odd that he would create something very, very similar to Courage for Armani. It's just, I hate it when they do that. Well, you already have a fragrance that smells like that, don't do something else for another brand that smells like that. It's just almost kind of a stab in the back or something for the Robert Graham brand, and then you're kind of like hyping the other brand and making something very similar. I don't know, but both of the fragrances just do not work for me. They smell very cheap, very synthetic, chemical messes with lots of aquatic notes, which I didn't care for. Now, I don't know if you guys are fans of these 2 fragrances. I'm sorry that I don't like them, but they just do not work for me. And again, I've received so many negative comments about me not liking these fragrances. It's like, I mean, do you yourself like every single fragrance? I like a lot of fragrances. I like a lot of scents, but there are a lot that I don't like to talk about as well. So today we are speaking about 20 of them, but I'm not a fan of these 2 fragrances. In fact, I haven't really been a fan of a lot of the Armani men's fragrances, although there is a new flanker of this Acqua di Gio ABSOLU, which I did smell while I was smelling the by KILIAN boys, and I did enjoy it. I'm not sure if I'm going to do a review of it, but if you are interested, let me know. But Armani Acqua di Gio ABSOLU and Robert Graham Courage, very similar smelling, very, very fragrances that I don't appreciate or care for. They just don't work for me. And we're continuing with the aquatic theme. Sorry, this is a very, very tough genre for me. This is a fragrance that I really thought I was going to like. They originally used to sell these this collection of fragrances here in San Francisco at Neiman Marcus. We're very, very early on in my journey of doing YouTube reviews. They sold them around 2013, early in Neiman Marcus, but they got removed. This is the house of Ramon Monegal, and this is a fragrance called Mon Patchouli. You know me, I love patchouli, and I really, really wanted to like this patchouli. Absolutely does not work for me and my body chemistry. In fact, there are some fragrances from this house I do really enjoy, I do really like, and hopefully I'll do some videos around the house. But this Mon Patchouli, whatever aquatic dose of aquatic touches there are in it, they just really smell foul on me, on my chemistry, and all I smell is seaweed with like a backbone of patchouli, which is what I want is the patchouli. I'm so sensitive to this. I think it's CALONE is the note, C-A-L-O-N-E. It's supposed to smell marine aquatic. I don't appreciate or like this note. And in fact, I looked at the notes and they don't list anything aquatic for notes, but I get such a major dose of something aquatic and seaweed-like in there that it turns my stomach, sadly. So Ramon Monegal, Mon Patchouli. I don't hate your brand. I do enjoy some of your fragrances. In fact, I'm going to review some very, very soon. But Mon Patchouli, even though I'm a patcho, I'm a patchouli lover, I cannot stand this fragrance, sadly. All right, next up, another aquatic dose. What we have here now is Tom Ford's Oudh Mineral. Wow. I was like, when I first heard about this fragrance like 2 years ago, I was like, I don't think this is going to be good. And sure enough, I tested it. I didn't really care for it. Sea salt, sea notes, seaweed with oud, styrax, pink pepper, ambergris. All you get is seaweed and sea notes, and if you're sensitive to this, that's all you're going to smell. Even though you're smelling an oud fragrance, it says Oudh Mineral. I don't get oud first. I get all the mineral-y kind of sea-like notes coming at me so strongly. I don't get any oud from this. It was I mean, for me, it was a flop. I don't know how well it did. I don't even know if it's still sold out there, because they keep cranking out fragrances so fast, I can't keep up with what's being sold. I think it's still available for sale, but this just did not work for me, and I couldn't deal with it. It's just way too much C notes, an overdose of C notes, and when you're sensitive to specific notes, all you get is that smell, and that's all I got with this one, sadly. So next we're going to go to the blind buy section of the video, and these are blind buy fragrances because I didn't have access to them here, so not necessarily all of them are aquatic. But the first one I'm going to talk about is Guerlain's L'Homme Idéal Sport. I ordered it and I hated it. Although after you get past the aquatic touches, it does dry down to a nicer patchouli almond combo, but you have to deal with the aquatic touches at the beginning, which it just didn't do it for me. I do have a full review of this fragrance. Go check it out. But that's not a fragrance that I really, really like. And sadly, it was a bad blind buy. And sometimes it happens. I knew what I was getting into, but I was a fan of the series, of course, and I thought I was going to try this one. Sadly, this is the one that should have been discontinued, not the Cologne, but I guess the Cologne just didn't do well, and this one does well, so they did not discontinue this one, and the Cologne is discontinued in the L'Homme Idéal series from Guerlain. This next one, I actually did a blind buy. I ordered it, which I didn't have access to here, and it came later on, but I should have waited because I ended up with a bottle that I never reviewed, so I had to figure out a way to sell it. So it's Viktor and Rolf's Spice Bomb Night Vision, and the name and the color, the theme and everything was so exciting to me that it just falls flat. There's nothing, it doesn't even smell like the original. It just was a sort of similar cheap smelling kind of like aquatic amber wood synthetic soup of a mix of fragrances with hardly any spices. According to the notes, there's lots of tonka, and I think what I'm discovering is this tonka and amber wood combo, synthetic tonka or something, because it does not smell like, you know, real tonka. They just end up making a chemical mess or some kind of a chemical soup that just I can't tolerate the smell of. It's not a great fragrance. The original is great. I love the original Spice Bomb, but this is not Spice Bomb at all. It's just a fruity tonka bean, aquatic, whatever the heck it is, kind of a mix that I just didn't care for. So I did not do a review of this particular fragrance. It's not worth for me to do a full-on negative review of this fragrance, even though I have done some in the past. I just didn't do one of this one. So that was a bad blind buy. And this next one, I recently did a video on 4 fragrances from DUNHILL's signature collection, and British Leather, I added it to this list because it's a recent one, blind buy, and this is definitely does not work for me. Absolutely not. It's a leather, and I love leather fragrances, but this one, the combination smells like charred animal skin leather with, you know, all the other notes that are in it. It just doesn't work for me. I mean, if you get past the initial spray of about 45 hour in, it does become a little more tolerable, but you have to sit through that initial blast, and you know, it's like, do I have time for that? I don't have time to appreciate something that smells bad and then gets better. For me, it smells bad at the top, and I don't want that, because I really like notes that start out great with fragrances. And then the dry down is actually something you can wait for, but you can't appreciate something that smells bad at the beginning and then wait for it to get better for me. So that fragrance, unfortunately, is a bad blind buy. I didn't know. I thought all 4 would be great, but sadly British Leather just did not work for me. I didn't care for it. Watch my video on the 4 fragrances from DUNHILL's signature collection if you haven't watched it. I really loved Indian Sandalwood from that collection, and the Moroccan Amber is great too. The other 2 were, well, this one I do not care for, and the Arabian one, I think it's called Arabian Desert, I'm drawing a blank with the name. It was okay, but my 2 favorites, this Indian Sandalwood was awesome. But sadly, DUNHILL's British Leather is a bad blind buy. So if you like leather, you might like it, but it's a green, charred skin, flesh-smelling kind of leather, and it just didn't do it for me. So anyway, those are the blind buy fragrances. Okay, guys, this is the animalic section of the video. So sadly, I'm a big fan of all these houses, but these are fragrances that they have. I just cannot, it doesn't work for me. They're overly animalic, and some are just weird fragrances. We're going to start off first with Parfums DUSITA. Huge fan of this house. Love this house, and I love the fragrances, but this particular fragrance, Oudh Infini, absolutely does not work for me. It doesn't work for me, absolutely not. It's overdose of civet, overdose of oud and animalic oud, and it's just, all I get is the civet and the oud. Nothing but. Rose does come in a little bit, and then it does dry down, but you have to sit through the civet and the oud, and I can't do it. I just can't. I mean, for me, fragrances are the entire package. I don't want to go through an adventure to get to a place to enjoy something. It's the big entire package. It has to smell great from the beginning till the end. And most of the time, by the time it gets to the end and it starts smelling bad, it's okay. or not necessarily bad, but like it doesn't smell as good as it smelled before, it's okay. But I don't want to go through an adventure and wait for something to get better and better on me. I don't have time for that. And if I don't like animalic fragrances, ones that are overly animalic, I wouldn't appreciate it. So sadly, Oudh Infini does not work for me, but this house has some great, great fragrances. I love Fleur de Lalita. I love Isara, a great ambery fougere. So many awesome fragrances in this house. Go check out my videos around the house. So this next one is an indie niche house from New York called Strangelove, New York City. Sadly, I had to put this fragrance on the list. It's Silence the Sea. Now this is an ambergris bomb, and this is such a metallic and sharp experience for me. As soon as I spray it on, whoa, it just cuts through my nose. Like whatever is in here, the combination, there's ambergris, angelica, oud, tuberose, truffle, narcissus. Oh my god, it's so strong, I can't tolerate it. It is overly animalic, the most animalic usage of ambergris that I've experienced. Sadly, I'm a fan of the house, and I've told them this. I cannot. Silence the Sea does not work for me. It absolutely does not. It might work for you. Again, all these fragrances, it's all very subjective, guys. Something might not work for me, and I know Parfums DUSITA has fans of Oudh Infini. So many fans. In fact, I know them. They're my friends. But Oudh Infini does not work, and same with this. It's like this fragrance just does not work for me. Overly animalic fragrances do not work for me, and this is an overdose of ambergris. So much ambergris. Funny that they have, not funny, but interesting that they have narcissus listed here. I recently bought a bunch of narcissus and I put them in a vase, and I came home one night. It smelled so stinky, and I was like, I wasn't sure what was going on, but narcissus has a very stinky, smoky smell. Not necessarily like crap or something like that, but just very, very pungent. And I was trying to figure out what the heck is this smell, and it ended up being the narcissus, because I took a whiff, and even though I like the way narcissus smells, whatever was causing it to smell bad was really, really heavy that day. So it's interesting. I wonder if that has anything to do with Silence the Sea, the fact that I can't tolerate that particular fragrance. But I have a fragrance called Ostara from PENHALIGON'S, sadly discontinued, focusing on narcissus, and it's a gorgeous scent. Anyway, this next one is from the house of Zoologist Perfumes, Hyrax. I'm sorry, I cannot deal. This is a fragrance that's just not for me. Overdose of animalic notes. You got an overdose of Hyrax. This is why it's called Hyrax. Castoreum, civet. So it's so animalic. It's so overly animalic. It's like you gotta be into the animalic fragrances to appreciate this. I love bee. Bee is my favorite from this house. In fact, I also love camel. I also love elephant. And T-Rex is also very interesting. Squid is also great. So, but bee is my favorite. But Hyrax, it's an animal that I don't want to get too technical, but it's basically using its droppings for the smell. Anyway, Hyrax just does not work for me overly animalic. The most animalic. I mean, I like animalic fragrances, as I said. I love the Night from Frederic Malle. What I like about that fragrance is the fact that it's an animalic version of Portrait of a Lady for me, and I love Portrait of a Lady, and it's created by Dominique Bourpillon, and that works. But I don't know, just Hyrax just does not work. So this is, as I said, the animalic section of the video. Le Labo's Oudh, bad. For me, it does not smell great. I can appreciate. I mean, I can appreciate the fact that people love this fragrance, but for me, the Oudh. Oh man, no way. It turns my stomach, actually. Really, really, really not a fragrance that I enjoy. It's overly animalic, and it smells like pickled civet something or other. So it's almost like a formaldehyde kind of pickled juice or whatever. Anyway, that fragrance just absolutely does not work for me. Not at all. So this next one is from the house of BYREDO. It's called MINK. I should have added this to the, well, no, I shouldn't have added to the blind buy section, because I had sampled it in passing here at Barney's when it was more popular. I think it got discontinued. But for some reason I appreciate it, so I did a blind buy online, which I know already what the fragrance smelled like. I thought it was going to smell like musk, but I kept wearing it and it just was like, no way. It became weird, like very sharp and synthetic metallic things with fuzzy musk. It just was really becoming so weird that I just had to like wash it off and I couldn't wear it anymore. It just became that gross on me. So weird notes of aldehydes, incense, patchouli, honey, sea notes, amber, floral notes. It kind of is sharp like Strangelove, New York City, Silence the Sea. So that fragrance just does not do it for me. All right, this next one is a fragrance that's known to be very polarizing. In fact, most people hate it. État Libre d'Orange Secretions Magnifique. I'm one of the ones that hates it. I don't care for this fragrance at all because it just smells odd. Very sharp and metallic and very, very weirdly milky. So this one has seaweed, milk, iris, coconut, paponax, sandalwood. So I had never smelled it, and the first time I went to the État Libre d'Orange boutique in Paris, Thomas, who was working there, very nice guy, I don't think he works for the company anymore, he took his time, 2 hours, and we, with my friend, we smelled every single fragrance in the house, and this was the one I was wanting to smell so fast, and I smelled it, I was like, whoa, no way, this is not a fragrance I could tolerate. It is so metallic, so metallic. It's supposed to smell like blood, sweat, tears, semen, any secretions from a body, and they have accomplished it. I don't know if there are friends, but the friend I was with said they didn't hate it. They didn't react negatively to it, but it's not a fragrance they would wear. I react very negatively to this fragrance. I just cannot tolerate it, sadly. But all these houses that I mentioned in the animalic section, I love these houses. État Libre d'Orange, I love. BYREDO, I love. Zoologist, I love. Strangelove, New York City, I love. LABO, I love. Parfums, DUSITA, I love. But these fragrances just don't do it for me. They're not fragrances for me, sadly. Anyway, are you guys fans of these fragrances? Please do let me know. We're almost done with the video. We have a few more left. So this one is a surprise for me because it was one that was highly recommended early on in my journey. I love the idea of this fragrance because I love gourmands. I ended up ordering a bottle online because there was no place for me to go smell this fragrance. It's Montal's Chocolate Greedy. I got the fragrance and it just did not work for me. There was something weird about it. And I love gourmands. You've seen me talk about gourmands a lot. And I have a chocolate video and this was not featured on it because it just doesn't work for me. There's something weird about the notes. On me it smells like rotten bread with chocolate. I don't know where that comes from, but I love this house of Montal, but Chocolate Greedy, it just doesn't work for me. I don't know why, but it doesn't. So that's another one that there are a lot of fans of, but for me it doesn't work, and that's why I don't speak about it. So this next section is a bunch of designer fragrances that just are not for me. Versace's Dylan Blue, Ambroxan, Bergamot, Grapefruit, Watery, Aquatic Touches, Incense, Patchouli, Black Pepper. For me, I have a review of this. When I bought it, I thought it smelled great in the store. I kept wearing it and it was just starting to smell not that good. So I returned it actually, but I have a review of it. Sadly, Versace house is not a favorite house of mine. Their fragrances are not as quality as like Dior or Chanel or Guerlain or I don't know what else, Tom Ford and Mugler. It just doesn't do it for me, sadly. So Paco Rabanne's Invictus is a review I had on my previous channel, a very, very negative review. This is a fragrance that I just could not tolerate. A really overdose of aquatic marine notes, grapefruit, bay leaves, mandarin, ambergris, jasmine. It's just really, really, I don't want to say bad, but it's a bad chemical soup of a mix of notes. There's so many famous perfumers attached to the creation of this Invictus. It's just Dominique Ropion's attached to it, but there's a few other perfumers, but I think it's the brief that they were given by Paco Rabanne and they created this. It's been very popular, but it just doesn't work for me. It's this overdose of aquatic notes and I don't like it. Ferragamo's Uomo was a blind buy. I have a review of it. Another one that smelled very, very synthetic, like rotten, refrigerated dessert with the notes. It just didn't work for me, and there was a lot of fans, and you guys have sent me very, very negative comments about the fact that I don't like this and I should get my nose checked. I mean, I have a very good nose, and when I smelled the greatest fragrances in the world next to this one, I'm like, okay, it doesn't work for me. It smells synthetic and it's a mess. So Ferragamo Uomo did not do it for me. Carolina Herrera Bad Boy, what a disappointment. The bottle is pretty cool. It's a little gimmicky, but I wanted to love it. The notes looked great. I smelled it. Another one of those fragrances that falls into that category of amberwood, aquatic tonka, kind of a mess fragrance. Disappointing fragrance, sadly disappointing fragrance. I'm going to leave off with a niche house. This is a fragrance I loved, but it grew so bad on me that I started hating it. This is Annick Goutal's 1001 Ouds. I really enjoyed this oud, but something in the fragrance started really irritating me. Not as in a skin irritation, just something in the notes. Just a combination. It just became heavy, weighty, and nothing about it really like, you know, oh my god, that smells great. It just became like a fragrance that I despised. So I just had to stop wearing it. So Annick Goutal's 1001 Ouds is a combination of oud, myrrh, gaiac wood, rose, birchwood, papyrus, chili pepper. That combination is just disappointing combination. All I get is a very dense, gummy, resiny oud without any like interesting like sections of the fragrance that kind of like, you know, makes me happy. It's just a very dense, dark, resinous mess, and so I started hating it and I couldn't wear it anymore. I love oud, don't get me wrong, but this particular one, it didn't work for me. And in fact, this is one of the first niche houses that I fell in love with in the late 90s. I love this house. Sadly, it's not one that I reach for much because they had a name change and everything, but this is one of the houses that I really appreciated. Eau d'Adrienne, amazing fragrance, but the 1001 Ouds just does not work for me. Anyway, guys, I know I gave you a few more than 20. Have you been keeping count? What are your thoughts? What do you think about subjectivity? Are you a fan of every single fragrance? What styles do you not like? Do you like aquatics? Do you like overly animalic fragrances? Do you like any of the fragrances I mentioned to you today? Please let me know. Put some comments down so that I can find out. Maybe in 2 years I'll do another video, but these are the ones that right now I cannot do. I mean, let me tell you this before I leave. There are fragrances out there that are okay. There are fragrances out there that I love the way they smell, and there are fragrances out there that I hate. I don't like the way they smell, that are not for me. Fragrances I spoke about today are the ones that are not for me. The fragrances that are okay, I don't speak about at all on the channel because they're just okay. The fragrances that are great, I do speak about on the channel. Yes, I do throw in some okay fragrances on the channel once in a while, but the ones I really want to focus on this channel are the ones that I really love the way they smell. Those are the ones I want to talk about. Those are the ones that do it for me. So if that's the kind of channel you guys want to hear about, I'll continue. I'll throw in some okay fragrances here and there, and those will get negative, but all I want to focus on is the ones that I really love. And once in a blue moon like this, I will tell you some fragrances that just don't do it for me. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching today. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Otherwise, please like this video, please share it, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.